And now we're talking with Bob Donahue, Director of the Downtown Development Authority here in South Lyon. Welcome, Bob.
Hello.
All right, let's start at the very beginning. What is the role of the DDA?
Well, the Downtown Development Authority's role has changed under state law over the past few years, but the role is to manage the downtown, and we have adopted the National Main Street Program of the National Trust for Historic Preservation.
Okay.
It's a trademarked program, but it's for comprehensive, community-involved, ongoing downtown management.
Okay, great. And what is your background and experience in developing downtowns?
I started after graduating from the University of Michigan in 1979, city of South Lyon, city of Monroe.
Okay.
And I first worked for the city of Monroe while I was at U of M, and then doing a historic preservation study. Mm-hmm. And then I was the interim DDA director in Monroe for a few years before I left and went to Livingston County.
Okay. And then when did you start here in South Lyon?
I retired from Oakland County in May of 2016, and 15 hours later, I came to South Lyon.
Wow.
I retired.
Turnaround.
Yes, I retired from Oakland County to take this job.
Okay.
Because I wanted to. I was more or less in an advisory role at the county. Mm-hmm. While I had been a DDA director in Rochester years earlier after Monroe, but I wanted to get back, kind of get in the feet on the ground,
Sure.
Day-to-day downtown development work. So I started 1st of June in 2016 in South Lyon.
So it's been a few years now.
Yes, about 3.5.
Excellent. So you talked a little bit about comprehensive downtown management. What is kind of all entailed in that? What's
Sure.
actually the common person out there?
Right.
There's a lot of terms that you'll probably be talking about here today, but very basically speaking, what does that mean?
Well, it's to break it down to manage any real estate asset. Say if you were a shopping mall.
Okay.
You'd have to look at 4 areas. So the National Main Street Program for downtown management really looks at 4 key areas of management. You have to have a strong organization in charge, which is the Downtown Development Authority itself, with a board of directors active. Mm-hmm. That organization generally hires an executive director like myself. And then we partner with the community, with the city and the boards and commissions. So that's the organizational piece. Mm-hmm. Then there's the design piece, which is working with the Planning Commission, master plan, zoning ordinance, historic preservation. That's a critical part. So design, then the individual buildings and the overall character of downtown. So then the third piece is promotions and marketing. Mm-hmm. So you want to sell the organization,
right?
But then you're also really selling the downtown and all of its assets, as well as the community. Mm-hmm. Generally, the downtown is sold as the heart and soul of the community. It's the front door of the community. It's usually a lasting impression, or if you drive through, what was your impression of downtown?
Right.
So promotion and marketing is critical.
Yeah.
Working with all forms of media, so that's important. So then the fourth piece is what we call economic vitality. So it's knowing all of your data, your market analysis information, your traffic information, the condition of the buildings, the square footage of the buildings, relationships with building owners and businesses.
Right.
So that's kind of the more traditional economic development piece. So again, you take the organization, promotion, design, and economic vitality, and every day is very different for this job and for a DDA. So you might be heavily involved in one element or in all 4 elements, mm-hmm. but all those 4 elements are equally important.
Exactly. Again, I myself remember coming out here to South Lyon when I was looking at homes a number of years ago. And again, I think one of the big things for me was the draw of a downtown like South Lyon. So, that is something that even I myself as an individual was drawn to. So you mentioned there the design element of pulling people in and having that area and space for people to gather and shop and connect with other locals.
I think one of the most critical piece to going from not actively managing to really taking it to that next level with a comprehensive program is the understanding the historic preservation piece.
Right, let's talk a little bit about that, because again, downtown South Lyon has some fairly old buildings at least from a U.S. perspective, fairly old buildings.
Right.
So talk a little bit about that. What's the historic preservation aspect?
Sure. I think every building speaks for its own era. There is no false theme. So we're excited that every building speaks for itself. It has its own story to tell. Our earliest building is the building with the corner cafe at 101 South Lafayette. I believe that's 1852.
Really? Okay.
That's our oldest downtown building.
Right.
And then we have buildings from the 1870s, 80s, 90s, then around 1900, 1920s, 1930s, and then 1950s.
Okay.
So I think what we want each building to speak for its own age. That gives that richness of character.
Right.
But then understanding that historic preservation is a good thing. Because when I started here in 2016, historic preservation was looked at as kind of a negative because it was what I can no longer do to my building. You know, it was seen as a negative. But I think we've turned that to a positive.
Right.
Because we have a distinct sense of place.
Right.
And now economic development is considering placemaking.
Right.
And so there is no other place like South Lyon. And so our character comes from our buildings and our natural environment. So we really see that our buildings are an asset. And in the last 3 years, we're really seeing a turnaround. People are rediscovering the heritage of their buildings.
So I'm going to ask you about that, because again, I know some of the buildings have been going a facelift, if you will.
Yes.
And so how do you balance that historical aspect with still maintaining the integrity of the building?
Sure.
And being able to make sure that it has that draw that both the store owner wants, but at the same time also fits in the overall aspect of downtown South Lyon?
Well, you know, it's kind of like when you watch the Antiques Roadshow. You definitely look at a building and it has its inherent character. And you really want to go back and preserve its true, original, inherent character. And so there are basic guidelines that we use. We have a design review process, which is voluntary because, again, it's not mandatory. We don't have a local historic district, which requires certain things. So we are really looking at voluntary compliance with national guidelines from the National Main Street Center, and also the U.S. Secretary of Interior standards on how to properly take care and respect a historic building.
Right.
So that's what we've been using with the local property owners. And it's been exciting because the best resource is the Historical Museum.
Right. Yeah.
So the historical photo, it corroborates and points out those national guidelines. So the historic photos are incredible from our local museum.
Excellent, excellent. Now, when we compare downtown South Lyon to other local communities, obviously Northville and Primless get a lot of kudos for their downtown areas. Where do we stand in comparison to the other downtown areas here in the vicinity?
Well, number one, how the downtowns are financed. Downtown development authorities generally use tax increment financing.
Okay.
And that is the increase in taxes from the day they were formed. It's not a new tax.
Okay.
It's just redirecting the increase to the DDA's budget.
Okay.
Now, in South Lyon's situation, we're very small. We're one of the smallest downtown development authority districts in Oakland County and in Michigan.
Okay.
So we don't have a lot of resources. But we still utilize our as a key component. Our budget is $45,000, whereas some other budgets around the county are $1.5 million.
Wow.
And they're much larger districts.
Sure.
So...
And how do you get to that point where you can kind of start getting a little bit more dollars allocated to, again, continue to grow and develop the downtown space?
Well, we look at our master plan, our community master plan, which is very good.
And if someone wanted to see the master plan or find out more about that, where would they be able to see that?
Online
Okay.
and on file here. There's a hard copy at the counter, then go online.
Okay.
So there's the downtown component of the master plan. So while we have East Lake Street and North Lafayette Street as our historic core, the downtown master plan takes that two-story or possibly three-story urban environment 3 blocks south for the future development. So downtown will grow from Lake Street down to McCaddy.
Okay. And as far as development and upcoming over the next 3, 5, 10 years, what is there type of anything that you can share with us right now as far as ideas in the works that are starting to, again, more evolve the downtown area and expand that a bit?
When you asked earlier, where do we stand? Not only when you decide to get into comprehensive management, my position was created. I'm the first one to have this position. So it takes about 3 to 5 years to really reach a comfort zone with comprehensive management.
Okay.
So we've been doing this for 3.5 years. And so you get the trust of the building and property owners. That's why we're seeing more investment in these historic buildings. We're talking about the master plan more. We're attracting developers for those blocks south of Lake Street. And we're now in conversations with development of 300-foot blocks of 2 to 3 stories, 90-foot depth, $6 to $8 million projects. Because the goal is to not have any paved parking lots visible on Lafayette.
So let's talk about that then, because I know parking is always a concern for people who come downtown and want to be able to shop or be able to eat in one of the restaurants. What would you do with parking then? Like, what are the options then that people have for parking?
I think, number one, if you have, as a business, what someone wants, they will find it.
Sure.
Downtown is an experience, and generally parking, as long as you have a reasonable amount of parking, which we do. But people, if you have what they want, they'll come to you. If you're in a shopping mall, you will park the car and walk thousands of feet and not even realize it.
Right.
So in downtown, we can prove that within a 5-minute walk from Lake and Lafayette, we have over 450 spaces.
Okay.
In fact, on the back of our shopping guide is a map that shows all the public and private spaces. So we have close to 400 public spaces, but we have an additional as much or more private spaces available. And so within a 1 to 5 minute walk, we feel there's adequate parking. Even if we have a new, say, an upscale restaurant, 1 or 2 upscale restaurants to the mix, we would still have an adequate supply of parking.
Gotcha.
Now with new development south of Lake Street, we're going to have to increase parking.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yep.
Cool. Let's talk about events. So we're talking a lot about buildings in the downtown, the plan, and so forth. What type of events are coming up? And I know Cool Yule is coming up as well.
Yes.
But how do you continue to create more of that engagement? Pumpkin Fest, I know, is another big thing. It has a lot of involvement from the downtown businesses and so forth.
I think the events planning should be strategic. We're a very small DDA. Number one, we don't have a lot of funding. And it's a small community. So when you fund events, how many times do you go to the well for asking for sponsorships or business participation? So I think being strategic. So annually, the Downtown Development Authority has a goals and objectives session in February where we look ahead. And we actually strategically plot where all the events are. And generally, the goal would be to have one event, a major event, each month. And I know some people would like more activity. There are clusters of businesses that actually do more events in between. But our goal is to have one significant event each month, especially in the summer. So we, or some type of activity. Downtowns are the center, it's the community gathering point. So we really kick off the season with the Memorial Day Parade. And then we have the car shows.
Right, which car shows have really been picking up quite a bit over the last couple of years, and quite significant car shows too.
Those are wonderful. So, and then we have the all-day car show, which was added 2 years ago to the Wednesday night car shows. Then we have a spring ladies' night out as well, and then we have the fall ladies' night out. So we look at those events, and we try not to put too much of the burden on the businesses.
Right.
So we're looking at sponsorship opportunities within the city as well as outside of the city. But because we're small, it's a delicate situation. So it's great that we have nonprofit organizations taking on. We have the Lake Street Cruise-In is really a nonprofit organization that takes the burden off the DDA and the city. The Pumpkin Fest, our largest event, is a nonprofit. So the city and the DDA partner with those nonprofits. The Cool Yule now, for the second year, or actually this is the first year with a nonprofit, the Carl and Joanne Foundation are taking on the burden of most of the expenses related to the tree and the funding of the tree. And so we're seeing a city, DDA, Carl and Joanne Foundation partnership similar to Pumpkin Fest for the Cool Yule event, which is now just December 7th. We were trying to make it a 2-day event, but logistically and funding-wise, we just the last couple of days pulled that back to just Saturday, December 7th.
Okay.
And then first time the South Lyon Eve event will be December 31st, of course.
Sure. Yep.
So, but those are partnerships, and I think the city has been very creative and very lucky that we have these nonprofit groups involved, because some cities don't have that.
Sure.
And it's difficult.
Right. Besides funding then, what are some of the other challenges, biggest challenges that you see from a DDA perspective?
I think it's, number one, it's perception. People don't understand that this is America. People have property rights. And we could all walk down the street, or we've observed properties that are probably underperforming. And we say, why can't we fix those overnight? Well, because they're owned by someone, and we cannot forcefully remove things. So we have to follow ordinances. But I think enforcing our maintenance and blight ordinance, we've seen some change. When we see 111 North Lafayette, referred to as the Art Craft Building, which was vacant for 20 years. And that will have its opening the first week of December with its first business tenant in 20 years.
Wow.
A restored Victorian building. And then the RCA building, 135 East Lake. We'll see that opening in the fall of 2020 with an upscale restaurant.
Oh, excellent.
So our goal was, since the DDA became kind of re-energized with the National Main Street program, is to attract an upscale restaurant. And so it used to be that we had to go out and beg. But with the incredible demographics and the market data, every top-notch restaurant within about a 25-mile has wanted to come here. There's just been no space. That's the issue. No space available. Or a property owner that was not putting a reasonable price on their building.
Right.
So it's exciting that we'll see the other Bonner building, the Bonner Estate at 135 East, which has been approved by the Planning Commission for an upscale Italian restaurant and opening. And so that's another preservation project too.
Excellent.
So it's
always use more good food here in South
Lyon. Right. So those are exciting changes we'll see.
Cool. Well, you talk about some changes here. I mean, what other changes have you seen over the past 3 years here in the downtown space?
Well, I think the amount of investment, we've started to track. Part of comprehensively managing is tracking the investment, and so we've seen that there have been 8 complete building rehabs, 5 complete buildings repainted, again using those guidelines. So the investment has been a biggest indicator of change. I think the success of our farmers market and the attraction and getting more people involved through sponsorship and involvement there. I think the growth of our farmers market, while it's still very small, there's a lot of competition for farmers markets. So don't expect to see the farmers market expanding and tripling.
Like Eastern market or something.
Yeah, sure. But I think so. Our historic preservation, our business attraction, and our building rehabs, and our farmers market are 3 of the biggest indicators of change, and the kind of the reconstituting of the DDA board in a comprehensive management program. Those are our biggest successes.
Excellent. And I guess overall, then, generally speaking, do you think South Lyon is a business-friendly community, and why?
In my experience at Oakland County for just under 20 years, I would rank South Lyon at this point in time, not looking back, but where we are today, as in the top 5 percentile of business-friendly communities. Because I think when you come into the City Hall, my office is right next to the counter. Our staff is outstanding. Our every department across the board, our city manager, right now at this point in time, we have an outstanding staff, very business-friendly oriented. And we have an open process. We're modeling the state's redevelopment ready program. And so our city manager has taken those classes, and we're going to be instituting that across the board. And so we have meetings when someone comes in to plan a project. we assemble all of the department heads and consultants at no charge to the business to help them plan their permit process.
Right.
So that rather than starting the meter, when you've put your money in for the permit, then every meeting there's a cost.
Right.
We try to upfront meet with everybody. And so I really, with my experience at the county and around the state, I see us very, very business friendly. Now it's a change because people still look at the past, but where we are now, I think we're outstanding.
Excellent. Now, how can people stay in tune with what's going on? I know you are frequently up in front of the City Council talking about what's going on, so people can watch the City Council meetings, but how else can they stay in touch with what's going on with the DDA?
Well, we are in a situation that's improving every day because we realize from a recent, not only from a recent business survey, which unfortunately we didn't get as much input as we would like,
sure.
but we have realized from phone calls that our website and our social media presence is lacking.
Okay.
So we have made that a goal, the city administration and the DDA, over the next year to make major gains and improve that. So I think you'll see a vastly improved city website. I think you'll see a vastly improved Facebook presence by the downtown farmers market. And the city will have its own Facebook page for the first time. And these all being linked and working together with other community pages.
Right.
And so we've just never had that. And so we're pretty much behind. The other thing that we instituted is a downtown business and property owners meeting. Mm-hmm. And that is every month in addition to the DDA meetings that are always open to the public.
Okay.
And then, of course, the downtown report you mentioned every city council.
Right.
So we realize that we can always improve. We don't know everything. But one thing we do know, that all the answers are there. There isn't a point now where we say, how in the world could we do something to help downtown? Mm-hmm. We just have to find those answers. I think it's an exciting time that we are really taking downtown to the next level.
Excellent. Excellent. Yeah. Well, I think that's what you would like to share with us as we close here today.
Well, I think every town is not only successful from its physical resources, but its people resources.
Right.
And I really want to congratulate our Downtown Development Authority and the many fine volunteers that help us out with events. And we could not do all the things at events or projects without our volunteers. And so I think that's really the key. This is a wonderful community. And I think it showed at our Veterans Memorial dedication a little over a week ago. And the way people come together in this town is outstanding. So I think the people in this town are the difference.
Excellent, excellent. Well, thank you, Bob. Thanks for coming out here today and talking with us.
Thank you.